It's a Thursday, so you know what that means. It's the day the mustache dies. That's not what it is? Okay, turns out that's not what today's about, but still gonna happen. I see your comments. But anyways, today we ended up getting an update here for Warzone and Black Ops Cold War, and actually, there's a decent bit of stuff to go over. Some game changes and some game-altering adjustments for things in Warzone and elsewhere. So today we're gonna break down everything you need to know. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you guys like these changes being made? Maybe not so much. Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. As well, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below, and if you are new to the channel and want to join us on that road to 500,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you, considering that subscribe button. And finally, my friends over at Gamer Advantage, they're running a 30% off deal, which doesn't happen often. So if you guys want to learn more about that, we'll talk about them in a little bit here, but check out the link in the description below. That said, let's jump right into the changes at hand with this week's update. Now, when it comes to this week's update changes, there's a lot more this time around than just your simple playlist updates, like we see normally in what's considered off weeks for Call of Duty. Having the mid-season update as of last week, likely the new pistol as of next week, this technically is an off week if you want to call it that, but there were still a handful of adjustments that are definitely notable. And for this, we're going to start out with the Warzone side of things because that's where these notable changes come into play. Earlier today, Raven ended up tweeting out that there was an update going live before this playlist update for Warzone and Black Ops Cold War that then added on additional changes to what was last week's major title update. So this going in the same patch notes, but in an amended format. So we ended up seeing a bunch of new technical changes as well as weaponry changes and even a gameplay change for solos in Warzone BR. Now, as for the weapon tuning, that's where I want to start here. First and foremost, the first weapon that was up on the chopping block is, once again, the CR56 AMAX. This ended up decreasing the headshot multiplier from 1.62 to 1.5. It's a rather substantial change when you come down to it in a statistical fashion. This is absolutely going to require one more headshot at minimum here, depending on the range, and this is already on top of some recent adjustments that were made to the AMAX, such as the minimum damage decrease from 32 to 31, seen in the Season 3 launch update. Now, when discussing a little bit of the reasoning, they said that the AMAX has continued to display disproportionate levels of dominance over the long-range assault rifle space. As they continue their efforts to slowly raise the time to kill, they felt the best course of action was to reduce the power level of outliers rather than increase it to meet others. In a sense, I understand that. I still think that the AMAX is one of those weapons that's a high-risk, high-reward weapon. It's not like the M16 or the AUG was whenever that was in the dominant meta, where it's just point, click, shoot, kill. It takes a little bit more to learn that recoil pattern to control it at a distance. So to me, it wasn't that big of an issue, but I totally understand where they're coming from. So as somebody that loves the AMAX, a little bit bummed, but totally understandable once again. As for the FARA 83, that's another weapon that was up on the chopping block here, in which they adjusted the recoil pattern and also increased the hip fire spread, so it's going to be less effective at a hip fire perspective. This being described as just kind of trying to find its balancing ground between long range and short range play. The tactical rifle Charlie, or the Cold War AUG, ended up having a recoil magnitude decrease, in which they were saying that they were trying to find, again, a little bit more of a balancing ground between nerfing it into the ground, but also not seeing it return to a sort of dominant state that it was before. And finally, in terms of particular weapon adjustments, the LW3 Tundra sniper rifle had its base optic adjusted. This to combat some of the fisheye lens effect that was happening with that. Now, as for attachments, that's again where we come back to it, just like the mid-season update last week, where there are a few attachments that ended up having some specific adjustments to it. The Axial Arms 3x optic, that was reworked on all weapons, in which the optic itself is no longer as intrusive to your field of view. You end up seeing a lot more of the surrounding area outside of your scope. And as for the magnification, seems like it's the same, but again, just the scope being smaller may throw you off a little bit. Now, there also was an adjustment here with the actual reticle associated with it, in which it seems like it's now T-pose as opposed to having some different markings pre-update. The 4x was as well adjusted, in which, again, when we talk about intrusive optics, the 4x optic was taking up the majority of your screen. Now this takes up a very minuscule bit and still kind of conforms to your weapon model and was adjusted accordingly. Same thing with the SUSAT multi-zoom optic, that was reworked as well. And Raven ended up giving a note here on these changes in particular. They said the impact that these changes will have can't be understated, because they believe the optics have been holding back the long-range viability of Cold War weaponry, and we expect these optic adjustments to drastically change that. When optics are too close to the camera, they can cause distracting motions and visual issues, and in a long-range engagement especially, visual clarity is crucial. And that might be something that refers to the sort of lens flare that would happen with some of these scopes before beforehand. Those fixed out a couple of times in Warzone, but they said they believe with these changes that an expanded assortment of long-range viable weapons will become available. So we'll see how this one plays out, but they definitely seem pretty dead set on that. And then finally, the suppressor on LMGs ends up having the ADS speed increased from 2% to 3.5%, and the sprint to fire speed increased from 4 to 5%. Now, the only other changes here were a couple of bug changes in which that dealt with things like reaching out of bounds areas and, you know, maybe killing your teammates with vehicles that you were running them over with that it shouldn't have done any damage to. That was something that persisted for the past week. But the other big and final change here to Warzone in particular was that of the cargo truck spawn in Verdansk BR solos. Now, this was something that was a huge problem. I'm sure you've probably seen some clips here where once you get to that final circle, there's like 5 or 6 cargo trucks for the 5 or 6 last remaining people alive. It just becomes a demolition derby at that point where the last vehicle standing is likely the one that wins, just because it is so armored and can take so many shots that it's very crucial to have during the entire game. But what they changed is the static number of spawns you'll find across the entire world of Verdansk. Previously, it was anywhere from 16 to 20. Now, it's only going to be 5. And that is a huge, drastic change that, again, will change the entire dynamic shift of how the flow of solos may work, because no longer are you going to be armored in a vehicle that can withstand multiple explosions, but also you got to consider that whenever you end up going through this 20 minutes of a game, that entire time, there is the possibility of those armored trucks being destroyed before then. So you're likely not going to experience as many cargo trucks and solos, which is a huge win in my book. Now, that's a lot of the technical stuff that was introduced here within this update, but before we jump over into the playlist and the shop side of things for Warzone and Black Ops Cold War, I want to take a few seconds here and let you guys know about my friends over at Gamer Advantage, who are running a 30% off your order with code ESPRESSO for the holiday weekend. This is a very limited time thing. They don't really ever do this. It's normally always just 10%, but Gamer Advantage is seriously one of those companies that genuinely helps me in my daily life outside of gaming even. To me, they're the best blue light glasses and eye health company in the space. Me, I work at my desk on content, whether that be research, scripting, gaming for footage, commentating, editing, working on thumbnails, whatever it may be, for at least 8 hours a day. And then because I'm a tech addict, I'm on my phone or watching TV or something for other portions of the day as well. So that's an absurd amount of time spent looking at a screen. And I feel and have felt over the years the effect of blue light, and it's not fun. From things like messing with your rhythm of your sleep to just overall eye fatigue, it's not the best. Now, I've used blue light glasses before, but Gamer Advantage is literally the best that I have ever used. Their frames are incredibly comfortable. Their lenses have true color tech built in, meaning that unlike other blue light glasses, there is no ugly yellow hue in your vision that's used to just simply cancel out the blue. What you see without the glasses is what you see with them on. And best of all, they're durable and affordable for an investment into your eye health. And if you're also wanting to take it a step further, they do also have a multivitamin built specifically to help boost your eye health, and man, they're worth it. If you are at all interested in learning more or want to pick up anything for yourself, head on over to the link in the description below and use code ESPRESSO for 30% off your order for a limited time only. But getting to things like your playlist items here, you end up having in Warzone, since we are talking about that first and foremost, of course, your solos, duos, trios, and quads as traditional battle royale. Power Grab sticks around. We have Rebirth, Resurgence, quads making a return here at this week, and then Plunder Trios replaced Plunder Quads as of this update. Now, one thing that you also will notice is that starting today, going for the holiday weekend here, there actually is a Black Ops free access where you can play zombies and multiplayer if you do not have it already. This is being advertised within Warzone, so if you do have it, it'll launch Black Ops Cold War's application from this, and if you do not, it will then take you to the ability to download this and try it out for a limited time only. On the Cold War side of things, we end up seeing Rambo's Gun Game as the big introduction here with this, in which this is the second of 2 80s action heroes game modes that we'll see here throughout this event, and likely the course of the rest of the season. Die Hardpoint actually ended up staying around, which is nice. The way they worded the blog post talking about the week ahead on Monday seemed a little bit ambiguous, where they could take it out, but they didn't specify if they would, but nice to see that these are both available here at this. Rambo's Gun Game being gun game, but just with some heavier firepower in the arsenal, so jump in, play around with that if you guys would like to. Both of these playlists, though, do actually end up counting towards some of your 80s Action Heroes event challenges, so may want to do that just so you can take advantage of that if you care at all about the end game rewards for that event overall. Standoff 24/7, Fireteam Elimination, Nuketown 24/7, 12v12 stays around, Party Games Mosh Pit, Gunfight 3v3 is introduced, introduced, and Fireteam Mosh Pit are as well the other game modes up on deck here with this. The only other thing that pertains to Cold War and as well Warzone as of this week that I think is worth mentioning is that we are now in the final week of 2 for the 80s Action Heroes event. So for the next 6 days and X amount of hours in change, you're going to be able to work towards those challenges to end up getting those 2 rewards of either the Flamebearer DMR or the Ignition Pellington Blueprint for completing said challenges pertaining to Cold War or Warzone. So if you guys are interested at all in that, again, make sure you're taking advantage of that. There's only 6 more days left up on deck here. Now, the only other stuff that was introduced here as of this week come down to items in the shop, in which we had one introduced as of, I believe, yesterday or the day before. I think it might have been Tuesday, actually, now that I think about it, as well then one introduced today on the featured side of things. Now, this is 100% optional. Do not feel obligated to or pressured to do so, but if you find any of these items interesting and you'd like to pick it up and support the channel a little further, like Alex, Anne, Liam, and Walker have, you can use code ESPRESSO in the in-game shop in the Support a Creator functionality. It's entirely optional once again, but if you do decide to do so and you'd like to help out the channel, be sure to tweet me a picture. I'd love to shout out some of your generous support in upcoming videos. But that said, introduced as of earlier this week, I think again on Tuesday, is the Death's Veil Maxis bundle that comes along with the Death's Bride Maxis skin, the Death's Vow Mac 10 blueprint, the Death's Protest RPD, the Parting Gift melee weapon, the Nailed Down finishing move, the Lethal Blade charm, Death's Altar vehicle skin, Zombie Bride calling card, and the Crest of Maxis sticker. That's available for 2,000 COD points, but then introduced as of today was that of the new Reactive Road Rage bundle, in which this comes along with the Direct Injection Pellington blueprint that is reactive, the Battering Ram AK-74U blueprint, the Petrol Stitch skin, the Tire Shredder vehicle skin, the Stick Shift charm, the Tiniest Violin gesture, the Road Renegade emblem, and the Road Rage calling card. Now, of course, the marquee ticket item here out of this is that Pellington blueprint, which is pretty cool. My thing is, one, it's a Pellington blueprint, so where I play around with it in Warzone, not the best choice in terms of sniping, but if you play Cold War, it's not half bad. The blueprint attachments themselves isn't terrible. Again, I'd adjust some of this if I was bringing it over into Warzone, but not bad within Cold War. The actual reactive state is, to me, a little underwhelming. I'd take the Pellington Mastercraft that we released a couple of weeks ago over this, probably, but it is something available on offer this week. The Stitch skin that comes along with it, though, not gonna lie, that's pretty badass. But that said, that is the update here that we ended up getting for Warzone as well as Cold War, and I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular you guys really liked out of this? Any change that you found particularly awesome? Anything that you found underwhelming? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so I'm a single thing running all things Warzone, Cold War, and anything COD related. We'll keep you up with absolutely everything you need to know. As well, if you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practice on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is ESPRESSO. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.